Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast of Profiles in Excellence, where we visit with highly skilled individuals who have made a unique impact on their job or their specific industry. The focus of our podcast is applying business solutions with technology to solve problems within the enterprise. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dan Counts. I'm the founder of Fairwinds Recruiting. We are a talent acquisition and career coaching firm here based out of San Francisco Bay Area. Today, I'm excited. We have my really good friend, Jim Burke, joining us for a conversation today, a little bit about his company that he founded called Ayudatek, which is a help desk managed services support company based out of Philadelphia. Probably the best solution I've heard of throughout the entire US. Welcome, Jim. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Dan, thank you for the kind words.
Yeah, as always. So tell us a little bit about, you and I go back, gosh, probably 10, 12 years. Maybe we don't even want to date ourselves so much.
At least.
Tell me a little bit about your background for the folks that don't know you and where that led to Ayudatek.
Sure. My entry into software started about 24 years ago when I was a software sales rep. That evolved into the initiation of a consulting firm that I started a while back. And then about 4 years ago, I merged together two other software companies and consulting firms because I saw some gaps in terms of the offering that we had available so that we can make Ayudatek possible.
That's terrific. That company's been growing, I think you said, what, 4 years now?
Yeah, fortunately, yeah, we've gone well.
Why did you start Ayudatek? I mean, I know that you had done a lot of work in the recruiting space and you're a Hyperion sales rep before that, background in accounting, CPA work. What caused you to think a little bit about Ayudatek?
It's usually based just on delivery to clients and the frustration that the clients had and the frustration that we had in terms of servicing their actual needs, not the perceived needs of a consulting firm. So consulting firms are good for going in, setting up, leaving. That's the way the business model is designed. But a lot of firms, determined that it was very expensive to have their own staff to be able to look after these financial systems. It was even more expensive to hire our guys to look after the financial systems, combined with the fact that our guys really just wanted to do net new builds, right? So it's the difference between, essentially, if it was a building company, the superintendent who looks after the building is quite happy to do that. And the crew who build the building don't want to ever change a light bulb. We're happy to change the light bulbs.
That's great. So what's an example of the kind of work that you guys do? Is it more like the back end janitorial stuff, administrative support? You guys dealing with closing the books? How does that all fit together?
We're focused on closing the books, and as part of that is, your typical consultant would consider that to be janitorial work, but fundamentally it's very important work because it's the simple task of things like moving the files to get them ready for the close, helping people redesign the chart of accounts because they did a reorg, making sure that the departments that are caught in a roll-up for a reporting structure are all actually there, adding, deleting users, changing reports for folks, just that day-to-day work that your typical user does not want to have that skill set. It's not great for their career necessarily. Otherwise, they would have become a consultant. And it's work that a consultant has no interest in doing it because it's generally set up for a younger consultant who may not have as much experience. But it's really important that it gets done. And fundamentally, you can't run a software product without someone with those skills.
So I know that there's a lot of consulting companies that also have managed services arms, right? Supporting Hyperion, PVCS, or any of those technologies.
Sure.
How are you guys different? I mean, I remember you guys support 65 different products.
We do. This is another thing we discovered too. We used to just be a Hyperion shop. And what generally happens is there's that line where you have other feeder systems that come into Hyperion. And there was a great deal of frustration on the client side of, now I got to call another vendor who can help me with this. And I don't have the internal resources to do this. That's part of the reason I merged together those two other firms, because what we quickly discovered is this is a product and essentially a profession that someone wants to do. to run the back office systems for a company, to make sure they're working properly, to make sure the company's able to do the close. It's a completely different business than being a consulting firm. Consulting firms will just go ahead and grab whoever's available to answer the phone. Generally, that's how it works. They have to interrupt somebody at a client site to answer a question for a client, which then upsets that client. It's generally not, the most ideal way to handle this. Is like a sideline. We just do managed services and help desk work. We have no interest in doing consulting. Quite commonly, if we come across consulting work, we just hand it off to one of our partners.
Gotcha. And in terms of, I'll say the silos, that are focused, what are the major software packages, industry domains?
Sure. Yeah. We generally look after financial systems, operational systems, management reporting systems, supply chain, business intelligence, and database. So you'll hear words like, Oracle, SAP, Infor, Microsoft, all flavors of Microsoft, TM1, the IBM product line, some of the other lesser known products that are out in the manufacturing space, like Mapex, or some old stuff out there. We look after that. We've even got accounts on Sage, QuickBooks. It's okay. It's essentially financial systems. That's the focus.
That's cool. And then one other question I had that I wanted to chat with you about was, are you guys traveling on site, or how do they do the work?
Never. Thankfully, the internet's a very strong thing for us. Our guys are predominantly all traveling consultants who no longer want to get on airplanes. These are highly experienced people. Yeah, like the world is now. They're highly experienced people who don't want to go to the client sites. They are capable of doing excellent work over a phone with an internet connection. The tools are there now with screen shares that we're capable of. It's the same as if we were sitting with you. If we really needed to do it, we can get on FaceTime with somebody's phone and say, push that button there, and show it at the same time.
Right. Exactly. Terrific. I would imagine a lot of things have changed in the last few months, but how are you guys affected by COVID-19? I would think that companies would really be reaching out to a company like Ayudatek for that administrative support work that just still has to get done. The books have to get closed, right? Within the same cycle.
Well, I'll tell you, our team has really stood up to the challenge. It's been quite empowering to watch them do it. It trickled in, and it sort of surprised how it all unfolded. It was interesting because it started where, we have clients who have staffs in China, staffs in Europe, and people just went missing. And they couldn't find the people. And there are cultural differences with doing work from home in other nations. It's not the same as the U.S. In the U.S., most of us have a house that's big enough that you can find a quiet space to work. Most of us have a very high quality, quick internet connection. Most of us bring our laptops home with us. We don't leave them at work, right? So there's some cultural differences where people have a work-life separation delineation that's not part of what goes on in the U.S. So with COVID, what we found was we fundamentally went and got the data that was necessary out of the Asian operation centers and the European operation centers to provide that for the US HQ so that they can do the close. We did that work because the people who normally would be at work, they were just gone and they were unreachable.
That's amazing. So you guys can quickly jump into a scenario with pretty short lead time around. And I would imagine too that in many cases, a company might lose an administrator, for example. And I mean, outside the COVID situation, they lose an administrator, and now like who's supporting the system?
Absolutely. People have health issues, people have children, people go on vacation, people quit. Up until recently, they could easily get better jobs. That's not so easy now, right? But people do leave. The other thing we're seeing too is companies are making tough choices with what staff they still have remaining, and we're capable of ramping quickly based on the pod system that we have in place with their staff. We run a desk with 5 people on it per company, and any one of those 5 folks are interchangeable. We're cross-referenced from a product standpoint with experts within the organization, and it's a very effective model.
I know you guys are headquartered in Philadelphia. Where are your teams based out of?
The team is all located out of a town called Reading, Pennsylvania. And what's unique about Reading, aside from being not that far from Philadelphia, so you're still able to attract high quality, very strong folks, is one of the suburbs.
How would you measure your resilience in today's climate as how Ayudatek has changed or had to have changed?
Well, I'm very grateful to say we're probably the most effective part of their disaster recovery plan. When I was an auditor, I used to be an IT auditor, and we spent a lot of time writing disaster recovery plans for things like fires, floods, work stoppages, things like that. This is unprecedented. And of all the plans they put together, this was not something they had in mind. And we're told time and time again by CFOs and controllers and CEOs that this really made a big difference for them. And it was a great surprise. This is one thing they didn't have to worry about.
What would you say, we were talking the other day a little bit about innovation, and what would you say is probably the greatest innovation that you've seen in the managed services world, maybe over the last 10 to 12 months as compared
Hey,
to?
the one thing, and we're going to see a lot more of them, would be a matter of robotic process automation, or bots. So we developed a specific bot because we saw a weakness of one of the EPM products out there in terms of their ability to update workforce planning applications. So if you're using a budgeting planning consolidation tool, part of that's quite commonly you're going to have a workforce planning application. I won't name the vendor, but the process was such that it was a lot of retyping. So we created a bot that expedited that process. We probably saved the client at least $3,000 or $4,000 that month, and this is a repeatable problem. So this is something we could use at multiple client sites with this particular vendor product and save clients a tremendous amount of money.
That's fantastic. Well, definitely needed now. When the costs are so tight and revenues are questionable and forecasts are even more questionable.
Oh, yeah. And there'll be a lot more of it. Robotic process automation is definitely here to stay. It's going to expand. It shouldn't be a threat to people. It just eliminates a lot of costly and expensive steps to keep smart people from doing important work.
Right. Exactly. Very cool. So if folks wanted to reach out to you, I'm assuming you guys have a website?
We do. Where it's pretty simple. It's Ayudatek.com, AYUDATEK.com. We'd love to hear from you, or you can give us a call. There's a bunch of names on that website. You can contact us depending on which part of the country you're in. We work regionally.
We'll put a link to Ayudatek's website for you in the description here on YouTube. Well, sounds like an exciting company. And I'm sure we'll be hearing a whole lot more about Ayudatek. Once again, we'll put a link to the website in the description. And
Great.
Jim, thanks for being here. I hope you'll come back sometime soon.
Oh, Dan, a great pleasure. Always good to speak with you. Stay well, my friend.
We'll do. You stay healthy as well.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye.